certainly my privilege to introduce Lee Leachman. His surname is extremely well known in the seed stock business. His brother, his father, his uncle, his grandfather are all very well known in the seed stock industry. Lee operates Leachman Cattle Company of Colorado now with a unique concept of cooperators. They collectively market about 1,200 bulls a year, and that I'm very confident his plans are to increase that as things go on. I'm not going to take any more of his time. Please join me in welcoming Lee Leachman.
See, can you hear me all right? There we go. Well, Brian, thank you for that good and brief introduction. Last time I had a better one, I did it myself, so that was good. I'm going to apologize for the typing errors or spelling errors. You know, neighbors is spelled wrong apparently, but you know, my spell checker didn't kick all that out. So I'm going to give you a presentation today talking about really challenging you to think about the genetics on your operation and how that affects your long-term profitability and eventually even affects how much retained equity you have in your operation. Brian said, come up with a catchy title. I said, well, it could be the difference between you buying your neighbor's farm or them buying your farm. And literally, the impact of genetics today can have that magnitude of effect on the equity that you retain in your business. And I think all of us that are in this industry know that we're in it for the long haul. We know that it's a slow business. But part of our drive and ambition is often to pass on our operation to the next generation. The decisions you make on genetics have a big impact on what you're going to be passing on. So I want to challenge you to be thinking about these things and really the cumulative effect of the decisions you make. I'm going to start out and just give you a little background on our operation so, as Brian put it, you'll know where the bull is coming from. Okay? We have 4 breeds that we market in the United States. We market red and black Angus. We also market a composite that we call a stabilizer that's basically a Guelph Hereford Simmental Angus combination. We select those 3 breeds for maternal traits, trying to maximize cow-calf profitability. In addition to that, we market the Charolais and we select them for terminal traits. So 2 different selection objectives fitting in. As Brian made mention, we don't own the cows that produce all the bulls. Our family decided a long time ago that we could not own all those cows, and so we line ourselves up with what we call cooperators, and they own the cows and the land, and they raise the bull up until weaning time, and then they send us the bull, and we evaluate them on test, sell the bulls, and we divide the money according to a formula. And so we call those guys cooperators. We've actually got 2 or 3 that are here in the room today that send us bulls from up here. But they're located principally all over the United States, from as far east as Ohio, from as far west as California, as far south as Texas. All those guys kind of have one thing in common. They ascribe to our genetic philosophies. They use bloodlines that we recommend. They evaluate the cattle under the same system and then market the cattle through us in Colorado. We also do a little bit of embryo transplant. To give you an idea of the magnitude of the number of calves, we're putting in somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5,300 calving records each spring right now. So a large gene pool. From that, the top 50% of the male calves come to Colorado and are evaluated to be considered for bulls. There's about 1,200 bulls there on test right now. The breed mix, we're about 60% composites on feed. We're about 36% red and black Angus, and must be more than that. No, 60, 36, and about 4% Charolais. We've marketed about 9,000 bulls since we moved to Colorado in 2004, and we do a fair bit of export work, but most of our markets domestically. There is a composite program in New Zealand that markets the stabilizers, also in the UK and now in Australia. So we're starting to export a fair bit into those countries. So I'm going to talk mostly about genetics in the presentation today, and at the base of everything I'm going to talk about is sort of understanding the principles of genetic progress. And my father emphasized to me when I was a young guy that it all came down to this formula, whereas you increase selection intensity, variation, and accuracy, you make more progress. The shorter your generation interval, the more progress, and the fewer number of traits, the more progress. And so how do you tackle all that? Well, selection intensity simply means from the population as a whole, how small or how elite percentage of those animals can you utilize? And so obviously with sires, with the use of artificial insemination, you know, we can pick the top handful of sires out of hundreds of thousands of sires. On the cow side, historically, we've been pretty limited on that, but now with embryo transplant, right, we can start to mass produce elite cows. And so we're more and more focused on multiplying our seed stock out of fewer and fewer parents that are more and more elite, okay? So that's what we mean by selection intensity. Variation is how much those elite animals differ from the average of their population. If I pick the best sire out of 200,000, but he's not much different from the average, then I really didn't do much. So how far is he away from the average? Accuracy means how sure are we that what we're selecting is what we want. And for that, we rely on EPDs or EBVs, the same thing really. And that really drives the accuracy of our selection. And everything I'm going to talk about today really depends on the use of those EBVs, okay? So I'm going to spend a little bit of time and dig down into that and talk about why they're important, not so much how they're made or how they're calculated. That's sort of like the electronic transmission in our engines. You really don't know how it works, but you're just happy that when you turn the key, it works, right? And then we've got to roll generations, and so we try to use young sires and move the bar fairly quickly and roll animals through the system. And then the number of traits. Well, we're challenged because we really need to look at all the traits that are important, but we don't need to waste any time on traits that are not important. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what the most important traits are and how you look at those and how you balance selection for the different traits. Okay? So the first thing I want to start off with is focusing on this EPD.